No operations as long as you treat us with respect, as long as you respect our interests, just as we have always tried to respect yours. If you don't deceive us, like you did with NATO's eastward expansion, they said there would be no NATO movement eastward, not an inch.
You about your relations with President Trump and the United States. President Trump has a peace agreement on the table. Ukraine is offering huge compromises, but you keep talking about war. Mr. President, if you reject President Trump's peace proposal, you will be responsible for the deaths of Ukrainians and Russians in 2026.
We do not consider ourselves responsible for the loss of life because we did not start this war. This war began after a coup d'etat in Ukraine, an unconstitutional armed coup in 2014, and then the start of hostilities by the leaders of the Kiev regime against their own citizens in southeastern Ukraine. We, for our part, did not recognize it for a long time. The independence, the sovereignty of the then unrecognized republics of the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic. And after we were deceived, and after the Minsk agreements were not implemented, we were forced to use armed forces to put an end to the war that had been started by the Kiev regime with the support of Western countries. President Trump is making serious efforts to end this conflict. As I have said many times, he is doing this, in my view, absolutely sincerely. Moreover, at the meeting with President Trump in Anchorage, we coordinated and practically agreed with President Trump's proposals. Therefore, to say that we are rejecting something is absolutely incorrect and has no basis whatsoever. At the initial preliminary meetings held in Moscow, various significant proposals were formally made to us, and we were subsequently asked to consider making certain specific compromises. When I arrived in Anchorage, I said that these would not be easy decisions for us, but we agreed to the compromises proposed to us. Therefore, to say that we are rejecting something is completely incorrect and has no basis whatsoever. The question is entirely, the ball is entirely and completely in the court of our Western adversaries, let's put it that way. Primarily, the prominent leaders of the current Kiev regime, and in this particular instance, above all, their influential European sponsors and financial backers. We are ready both for negotiations and for resolving the conflict by peaceful means.
What kind of future are you planning? What kind of future are you building for your country and for your people? In this future, will any public disagreement with the official line, as it is now, be essentially illegal? Will the search for enemies, both external and internal, intensify even further? And in this future, will it happen more and more often that mobile internet will be shut down across the country? Will there be more new special military operations? Or will Russia take a different path? I remember you once said that our future is in our hands, meaning in the hands of everyone. But in reality, almost all the power in Russia is in your hands. So to a large extent, the future is as well. So what will it be like? What lies ahead? A continuation of what we see now. Thank you.
So look, what will Russia's future be like? Will actions or people who disagree with the authorities, as you said, be punished by law? You probably mean our well-known and frequently discussed law, which is constantly criticized, about foreign agents, a topic that often generates significant public debate. Dear colleague, I want to draw your attention to the fact that this is not our invention. This law was adopted in a number of Western countries, including the United States, as far back as the 1930s of the last century. And all these laws, including the law in the United States, are much stricter. There, criminal punishment is provided for, up to imprisonment, for such activities. In the political sphere, when there is foreign funding, we have nothing of the sort. Our law requires only one thing. If you are engaged in political activity, you must declare your sources of funding. We have no repressions or criminal prosecution. Moreover, if people stop engaging in either political activity or if they refuse external sources of funding for their political activities, they are removed from these lists. And there are quite a few such examples. Now, there's also the question of what will happen next with the BBC. There's a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit from the US president against the BBC. That's their family business. Let them sort it out themselves over there. I don't want to, well, rub salt in your wounds. I don't want to touch on that topic. Although, of course, it is a problem. The problem of inaccurate reporting and falsification. That's obvious. I think President Trump is right. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter, so. Will there be, said. New special military operations. There won't be any. No operations as long as you treat us with respect, as long as you respect our interests, just as we have always tried to respect yours. If you don't deceive us, like you did with NATO's eastward expansion. They said there would be no NATO movement eastward, not an inch. That's a direct quote. So what? As people say here, we got played. They simply disregarded our security interests. You created, well, not you personally, of course, but Western politicians created the current situation with your own hands. And you continued to escalate the situation. They constantly talk about preparing for war with Russia. Well, as far as I know, you've been living here for more than a year. You understand, I think, what they're telling you. Those who talk about war with Russia understand it too. What, are we supposed to be planning to attack Europe or something? What kind of nonsense is that? This is being done for domestic political reasons. It's being done to create the image of an enemy. They're creating the image of an enemy over there, in this case, out of Russia. This is to cover up mistakes that have been made systematically by many Western governments over a number of years, both in the economy and in social policy. Where is this green agenda when coal enterprises are being reopened? They shut down nuclear power plants, and now they're going back to them. It's one mistake after another. And now they're trying to cover everything up by blaming hostile Russia. They're distracting their own population from their own mistakes by focusing attention outward. In fact, your questions are basically attempts of the same kind. You said that all the power is in my hands. Yes. There is power that is vested in the hands of the President of the Russian Federation. And the scope of this power is clearly defined and set out in the Constitution of the Russian Federation, the fundamental law of our country. And let's say when decisions are made at the legislative level, yes, just like in any country I sign these laws, but I'm not afraid to say now, in terms of percentage, but a significant portion of these laws are initiated by deputies of the State Duma or by members of the upper chamber of the Russian Parliament, the Federation Council. These are all facts. Yes, of course, the President of Russia has extensive powers. But I believe that in our country, the presidential form of government is currently justified. But I want to finish with something else. We are ready to work with you, with the United Kingdom, with Europe as a whole, and with the United States. But on equal terms, with mutual respect and understanding. By the way, if you are interested in this topic, eventually we will get there. Everyone will benefit from it. I've already mentioned this important point. One of the most significant conversations I was personally present at, and which deeply resonated with me, involved the esteemed former Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Mr. Helmut Kohl, a truly visionary leader. He emphatically stated, and this was quite some time ago, specifically back in the pivotal year of 1993, that the fundamental future of the entire European continent, if it genuinely desires to steadfastly remain an independent and influential center of global civilization, must necessarily and unequivocally be together with the vast and historically significant nation of Russia. He believed that we naturally and profoundly complement each other in many crucial ways, forming a powerful and essential partnership. We will work with each other and we will develop together. If this doesn't happen, Europe will gradually disappear. Just look. Russia, even at this very moment, despite the undeniable fact that its economic growth rate has regrettably dropped to a mere 1% as the nation vigorously fights against persistent inflation, still impressively holds on to its significant fourth place in the global economic hierarchy, a position of considerable influence and importance. By purchasing power parity. Fourth place. After China, the United States and India. Next comes Russia. I want to draw your attention to this. Behind us are Japan and the Federal Republic of Germany. The United Kingdom, which you represent, unfortunately today holds only 8th, 7th, 8th, or 9th place. Well, 7th or 8th, I think. But if we were to combine our efforts with European countries, Russia and the European countries, our combined GDP by purchasing power parity would be greater than that of the United States. Of course, this is all theoretical, but it is absolutely clear that by uniting and complementing our capabilities, we would thrive. They fought with each other, just as you are doing now with regard to Russia. It's not us who are fighting you, it's you who are fighting us, using Ukrainian nationalists as your proxy. We are ready to cease these hostilities immediately, provided that Russia's security is ensured in the medium and long term, and we are ready to cooperate with you.